Good day, Ambassador Anke Reiffenstuel. Thank you so much for having the time to be here today for this interview.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's my pleasure.
Yes. We are doing this campaign for menstrual health and hygiene, and to raise awareness on this topic. As an EU gender champion, I would love to discuss this topic and what other initiatives you might have.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege. However, it comes with a responsibility, namely to increase the awareness on gender issues, or rather on the gaps in gender equality. At the same time, it is an opportunity to advocate for our EU Gender Equality Action Plan and to highlight and to focus on the projects, gender-related projects the EU member states are doing and funding here in the Philippines. For me personally, it is also an opportunity to see and to communicate the comprehensive commitment of Germany in the Philippines from a new perspective, namely the gender perspective.
What do you see are the major issues of the country on gender?
The Philippines, from an international perspective, is doing quite well in gender equality, having virtually closed both the educational attainment and the health and survival gaps, and on a very good track to close the economic participation opportunity gaps. At the same time, what we see is that still too many women are working in the informal sector, which makes them more vulnerable to economic shocks. Also, when it comes to the legislative sector, the government sector, women participation and representation is far too low. In the parliament, less than 30% of the parliamentary seats are taken by women. And when we look at the cabinet or at the ministerial level, it's even less. Also, when we look at the UN Gender Equality Index, the Philippines dropped to rank 104, since the country still faces challenges with regard to maternal mortality, teenage pregnancy, as well as unequal labor force participation. Referring also to the COVID pandemic, women here in the Philippines particularly suffered from the pandemic-related restrictions, which worsened their economic situation and poverty, which increased the numbers in domestic violence and exploitation. Also, when we look at the access to justice and health services, all this, we saw the gap widening again. So these are just a few challenges we have to address. And with the recently published Philippine Development Plan, it's good to see an encouraging sign that exactly these issues are reflected there and are being addressed.
So what is Germany doing in the Philippines for gender equality?
Germany is, of course, committed to gender equality, to advocating and working towards more gender equity at home and abroad here in the Philippines. So together with our European partners, we are meeting a variety of stakeholders in the gender-related field, from civil society organizations to government officials. Of course, we are also funding numerous projects that have an impact on gender issues and gender equality. Just last year, we were providing 14 million euro in this regard. As an embassy, the German Embassy, we funded last year specifically 2 projects that were focused on gender issues, namely one on economic empowerment of women in the Zambales region, and the one on teaching indigenous women journalistic skills to counter misinformation and disinformation in their respective communities. But what I would also like to underline is that gender issues, gender equality, needs to be a cross-cutting issue. So much more than focusing on and then funding gender-focused projects. Our role is also to advocate for gender equality across the board.
Well, as a Filipino citizen with a bloodline of indigenous ancestry, I really commend your efforts as an individual and, of course, as a nation of Germany as well. So thank you so much for doing that. And we are truly excited for what's ahead with your future projects as well here in the Philippines, which actually takes me to my next question, which is after Sweden, France, Spain, and Luxembourg, Germany is the 5th EU member state to adopt the feminist foreign policy. What can we expect from you?
This is a very exciting topic, and it's an energizing topic for all of us in the Foreign Office. So currently we are working, or rather finalizing, our feminist foreign policy document and policy that will bring together and highlight the principles, the instruments, and the actions in the field to promote gender equality, gender mainstreaming. We are planning to present our policy paper on feminist foreign policy on International Women's Day in March. And our feminist foreign policy roadmap includes consultations with other ministries, civil society, and of course international partners. So what can we say so far is that we need to bolster our feminist foreign policy with concrete action. Our goal should be to foster measurable progress in gender equality, the same rights, the same representation in all spheres, and the same resources are a necessity, and not just with regard to gender equality, but all forms of anti-discrimination. So, in short, feminist foreign policy means gender mainstreaming gender aspects in the entire spectrum of our foreign policy. Which also means that we are not inventing a new activity or new programs, but it's, as I already mentioned, taking a new perspective, a new focus, and hence increasing awareness. So having a feminist foreign policy is not just a matter of fairness and equality, but I am convinced that it will also contribute to improving our foreign policy, our overall foreign policy. For example, when we look at security policy, we need to draw the right conclusions from the fact that conflicts can be resolved more effectively when you ensure the full participation and representation of women in the process. And this is why feminist foreign policy is also an important contribution to the implementation and finalization of Germany's national security strategy that is also about to come out and be published later this year. Which takes me to our stabilization and peace-building work that we are also supporting and funding projects here in the Philippines. There we try to ensure that the full protection of groups in vulnerable situations that suffer from different crises, such as natural hazards, are taking into consideration and ensuring the participation of women.
Perfect. Amazing. And it's incredible that other countries around Europe are taking part of this, not just Germany. So I think it's important as well that you pointed out that the policy is made to have the same rights and representation for men and women, not just, because oftentimes feminism can be perceived as fighting against men, which is not the case at all. So as an EU gender champion, could you tell us more what an EU gender champion actually do?
The EU Gender Champion, first and foremost, helps to give visibility to what the EU and the EU member states do on gender equality here in the Philippines. Together, we promote the third Gender Equality Action Plan of the EU and the country-level implementation plan, which has been finalized in August last year and which is our guideline to the engagement of the EU and the EU member states in the timeframe 2021 to 2025. The priority areas, 5 priority areas of the plan are sexual and reproductive health and rights, fight against gender-based violence and access to justice, equal participation and leadership, green transition and digital transformation, and women, peace and security. As an EU gender champion, I would like to build on the joint initiatives that have been taken by my predecessors in this role, especially by the Finnish gender champion last year, which means I would like to focus mainly on sexual and reproductive health and rights, as well as in women in conflict situations. We are all aware that in October 2000, the United Nations Security Council emphasized the importance of women in peace processes with the resolution 1325. Since then, Germany has been working around the world to implement the Women, Peace and Security agenda. In the Philippines, this means mainstreaming our gender perspective into our projects in Mindanao in the peace, where we are contributing to the peace process. One example is a project called Women Engaged in Responsive Solutions to Violent Conflicts in Mindanao, the We Resolve project, which aims to contribute to the stabilization of conflict-prone areas in the Barm region through enhancing the role of women in conflict management and peace building. This project started in September last year and conducts workshops to equip local government units and women-led civil society organizations, community members and other stakeholders with the skills to develop better gender and development plans. With the We Resolve project, we aim to improving women's economic situation in conflict-prone areas through livelihood support for 40 CSOs, creating links between peace and socio-economic empowerment of women through resilient enterprises. In addition to this, Germany on the international level is a co-chair of the Equal Rights Coalition. Therefore, we will also step up our efforts to support the LGBTIQA+ community.
Fantastic. I'm just smiling throughout the whole thing because it's incredible hearing it firsthand from you, Ambassador Anke, yourself. And as a woman myself, you really need all the help as much as we can to have this representation in government as a leader. So fantastic. There's a lot of great plans ahead for you and for the EU champions previously. So that's really, really exciting. And you mentioned also sexual and reproductive health, and that's one of your focus for this. So I really want to dig a little deeper into that and ask you, why is menstruation an important topic in relation to gender equality?
Yes, I mentioned this is one of the priority areas, sexual and reproductive health, which also includes menstrual health and hygiene. Menstruating girls are still confronted with a lot of taboos here in the Philippines, with stigma and embarrassment, insufficient access to basic services like water, sanitation and hygiene makes it difficult for them to properly manage menstruation. Girls in many countries around the globe continue to face barriers in education. The ability to manage menstruation in schools has been shown to have a positive impact on the education of girls in terms of reducing absenteeism and increasing participation, in turn allowing them to reach their full potential. The Philippines has done great in the recent years to advance access to female-friendly toilets at schools best model for other countries in the region. Empowering women to help achieve gender equality entails paying attention and addressing the needs of girls and women, especially at a young age. So addressing basic human rights and building on an environment for better educational outcomes will help create empowered girls and women. Empowering girls at an early age will help ensure full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision-making later on in their lives. So addressing menstrual health is therefore an important step to achieving gender equality.
With this, how is the German government really supporting the Philippines in advancing menstrual health and hygiene?
We are working with the GIZ here in the country, which is our main partner and implementer. So the GIZ regional Fit for School program works closely with the Philippine Department of Education, with DepEd, in implementing water, sanitation and hygiene intervention in schools. So improving access to wash facilities will enable girls to appropriately manage menstruation while being at school and help ensure that it will not be a barrier in their education. The program, the GIZ program, the Fit for School program, has achieved significant success over the past 11 years already through an innovative and integrative approach to the implementation and scaling up of WASH in schools. Menstrual health is an integral part of a healthy school environment, and it includes simple infrastructure measures, management approaches, and tools for information and capacity development of all actors in the school context. So the program is also implementing several initiatives aimed at increasing awareness and knowledge on the topic.
Well, yes, I recently just got out of high school, maybe a few years ago, and to be honest, there's not a lot of talk about menstrual health or hygiene, even in Australia. So here in the Philippines, it's really, really incredible that you guys are taking part of this, and hearing that it's been 11 years that GIZ has been part of this, it's just really exciting that there's small progress.
And it shows that we are in a long-term partnership.
So how has the program improved the status of menstrual health in the country?
So since the implementation of the program in school year 2017-18, DepEd has been monitoring the progress of WASH indicators, and we see continuous improvements in menstrual health-related indicators, specifically water availability, gender-segregated toilets, availability of sanitary pads, and access to information. Availability of water in schools has increased to nearly 90%, 90, in a span of only 3 years. And the average number of girls sharing one toilet also decreased considerably from over 100 to 94. Access to sanitary pads in schools quadrupled from only 20% to more than 80%. The percentage of schools with information material on menstrual health for students also increased. So the SDG indicator for access to sanitation has nearly doubled to 74%. To reach education staff at large scale, the Fit for School program also developed a massive open online course on WASH in schools, incorporating the topic of menstrual health. Between 2019 and 2021, approximately 22,000 educators have been capacitated through this online program. School heads and teachers have now an increased awareness of the topic, which is key to instilling proper knowledge and to improving attitudes and practices of approximately 27 million learners in the country towards menstrual health issues.
So education is really the key.
Education is the key to everything.
Yes. And it's fantastic that, hearing the statistics from 20% all the way to 78% in some aspects, it's incredible what we can put our minds into in actually educating people. So I actually attended elementary school here in the Philippines, and during my time, there were only one bathroom for boys and girls. So, and of course, women can get their periods from the age of 12, which is at grade 6, even from the start of 9 years old, which is, grade 4. So I can't even imagine the struggles these women would have to go through with menstruation. And my siblings also, all our women attended high school in the Philippines, and they also experienced similar. So 2 bathrooms, one for guys and one for girls. So I'm just wondering, have you ever visited schools here in the Philippines? And if ever you haven't, do you consider visiting one to see for yourself?
I've been to the Philippines for the past 3 years, and I had the chance to see a few schools already. However, not with a focus on a wash and gender-related issues. But I would love to. I would love to go and meet students because I think coming from Germany, having grown up in Europe, probably I still have in many areas a different kind of perspective, and meeting people, going to the provinces is always very revealing and a learning experience for me. So to meet people, to discuss with students, to exchange, to answer their questions on whatever issues they have with wash, sanitary, menstrual health related issues, it would be, I think, very good, and it would help me to understand the Philippines better and to understand the challenges in order to be able to better address them together in our projects that we are working on here in the Philippines with our Philippine partners.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think having discussions with young girls on what they experience and their struggles can, well, you already said it, but can consider into your future projects.
So menstrual health, I think, is just one issue. Another one that really strikes me is teenage pregnancy. And teenage pregnancy here in the Philippines is still among the highest in not only in the region but also worldwide, which is really a worrying fact. And I think that the most important thing to do that can be done, that we as an embassy, me as an ambassador, can do to talk about it, to raise awareness, to answer questions, and to make information and knowledge accessible.
Yes, and I think as of a person of such high level of excellence here in society, for young women in the Philippines to see you speaking about that, I think it inspires them to open up a little bit more about that topic. And of course, young men also, they need to be educated on this topic, not just the women, because they are part of the world. We can't have pregnancies without men.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Teenage pregnancy it's much more than a figure. And I think in the Philippines, most people are aware of the issue, are aware of the challenge, at the same time not talking about it or seeing it in an isolated way as a challenge, as a problem, but it has a huge economic impact. And if we speak of the economic and development agenda and aspirations for the Philippines, then we need to also to address the issue of teenage pregnancies, which come at a high cost for the society, not only for the person affected, but for the whole society and the country. So all these challenges are interwoven, and we really need to address them together in a comprehensive way.
Yes, and I think it's still a very hard topic to talk about here in the Philippines.
Actually, it is not a hard topic. Sometimes it is made a hard topic, so we just have to overcome the taboos and our self-set taboos on it, and just understand it's part of our life. So I think that also illustrates how important it is to partner with national stakeholders here from the Philippines. The experience you just mentioned also shows how different our reality, how our everyday experience in Germany is, and that it really needs the input and the experience, the reality that people, the students here in the Philippines have to compare and to see how we can improve together.
Yeah, and I think it really needs to be put in the forefront that in the Department of Education that teaching isn't just the priority, but really the health of the mental health, the physical health of women needs to be put in the forefront for that as well.
Teaching is much more than school books.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned learning isn't just about education. It's really also, I think, about the environment. So why do you think going to school and teaching young kids as early as they can about menstrual health or reproductive health, why is it so important at such a young age?
We have seen during the pandemic, when the schools were closed, that mental health issues were increasing, which really showed us and clearly had the message that schools is not something you can do in an online environment only. Schools is a social place. It's a place for getting to know what life is about. School and education is more than a curriculum and textbooks. Schools are a place where you prepare for your future life. So therefore, I think it is important to meet students. For me, I would like to meet students, to discuss with them, to hear about their problems and the questions they have, in order to help them to understand what Germany is doing, what the EU is doing, and to prepare them for their future.
And I think for a lot of girls as well in domestic violence, school is actually their home. So during the pandemic, when everything was closed and everybody had to study online, it was very difficult for them to be at home only. So yes, the school is an environment, it's a social place. You should be at school to study, to make friends. It's not just about the books. It's about the environment.
Yes, and it's the venue, it's the space where you spend a lot of time, where girls, boys at a young age spend most of their day, and so this is the environment we need to focus on when we want to engage on important issues.
And I think talking about menstrual health as well and the reproductive health, it just creates this healthy environment where people can foster healthy conversations without having to be afraid or ashamed about talking about these topics to their teachers or their peers. It's just holistically a free environment. It should be.
And I hope we are on a good track to make it this, and I hope that we and that I, as a gender champion for the EU, can contribute on this path.
So how is addressing menstruation be considered as gender transformative?
Improving menstrual health and hygiene is key in creating an enabling environment for girls and women, whether be it in schools, in the workplace, or at their homes. So increasing awareness and intensifying education efforts on the topic are important to tackle and to overcome the taboos. It will empower girls to openly discuss and address misconceptions surrounding the topic. Schools serve as a good and appropriate venue to implement menstrual health interventions to target the younger generation during their formative years. It also ensures that boys are educated and are made aware of their roles in ending the gender gap at a young age.
Yeah. And it's really important that you pointed out that it has to be at the young age to instill that habit of learning. And I think with menstrual health anyway, I think a lot of women also don't know all the information about it here in the Philippines because it is such a taboo topic to talk about. And what more if it's men? So I think I have the last question here for you. And it is the theme of this year's International Women's Day celebration is #EmbraceEquity. What does that mean to you, to #EmbraceEquity?
Of course, it means fairness and equal rights for everyone. At the same time, embrace equity is a very active expression. So it means to reach out and to embrace the topic and to understand that everything we do has a gender relation to increase awareness, to reach out, to become active, to get involved. This is what it means to me.
Amazing. To have, well, you know, women and men can't live on their own. We have to work together in order to live peacefully in unity together. So thank you so much for being here and for this interview. I learned a lot, and I'm sure the general public will learn a lot from you as well with everything that you have planned as an EU gender champion, as an ambassador of Germany here in the Philippines. So thank you for the time, Ms. Ambassador Anke.
Thank you, and I'm really looking forward, and I'm excited to work together and to implement a lot more projects together with our Philippine partners.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.